Independent groups call for changing the method for preventing the marketing of conflict diamonds, the so-called Kimberley process.
The weakness of the naira against the dollar is hurting prices of domestic items in Nigeria, a major concern for traders and consumers.
And a refugee from Eritrea will be among the athletes representing the United States at the Summer Olympics in Rio at age 41. Africa 54 starts right now. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory, Voice of America, coming to you from our global headquarters in Washington.
And I'm Cynthia Are, Channels Television here in Lagos. Thanks for joining us.
Well, a growing number of groups and NGOs are finding fault with the current method of preventing the marketing of so-called conflict diamonds. Critics say the industry-designed system fails to address the 21st century realities of rebel groups and other non-state actors. VOA's Jeffrey Young reports.
Sierra Leone's brutal civil war in the 1990s was fueled largely with cash generated by the sale of diamonds mined in rebel-held areas of that West African nation. These gems came to be known as blood or conflict diamonds. A Hollywood movie and other negative publicity prompted some countries to develop an accountability mechanism. In a Skype interview from London, Amnesty International's Lucy Graham explains the rationale behind the mechanism known as the Kimberley process.
So the Kimberley process is, broadly speaking, a certification scheme that aims to stop conflict diamonds from entering international markets. And what the Kimberley process means by conflict diamonds is diamonds that are used by rebel movements to finance conflicts aimed at overthrowing legitimate governments.
The Kimberley process requires member countries to certify that rough, unfinished diamonds come from legitimate sources. But the first step for raw gems on their way to market is usually regional brokers who collect diamonds from multiple sources and sell them to the world's major diamond centers, such as Dubai, Belgium, India, and China. There, gems are cut and polished into the diamonds we buy in rings and other finished jewelry. So these stones pass through many hands and many countries along the way. The whole certification process operates on an honor system under which conflict diamonds can slip into the system undetected and continue on to market. Michael Gibb of the NGO Global Witness in London told VOA by Skype that the Kimberley process is too weak to prevent such abuses.
It can be difficult to tell one diamond from another, especially when they're mined in close proximity to each other, perhaps on different sides of a border or as part of the same river system. Telling diamonds apart can be genuinely quite difficult. And that's one reason we think it's important that we don't just focus on where diamonds are from, but start focusing more coherently and more comprehensively on the entire supply chain.
In December 2011, Global Witness, which had been part of the effort to establish the Kimberley process, withdrew from it, saying the system was riddled with what it called persistent enforcement issues with cheating nations. One African state where that mixing of clean and conflict diamonds has taken place is CAR, the Central African Republic. The Kimberley process withdrew its approval of the sale of CAR's diamonds in 2013. Amnesty's Lucy Graham, again by Skype, says her NGO's investigation shows how that nation is allegedly cheating.
So we found, for example, that the diamonds were potentially exiting out through Cameroon, through the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and that those could then potentially get into international markets. That's a finding that's also supported by information from the United Nations itself and from other civil society organizations looking into this issue.
Michael Gibb of Global Witness points out a glaring reason why anyone determined to cheat on the Kimberley process will find it easy to do so.
There is a lack of third-party independent oversight, especially once we get into the part of the diamond supply chain that people know best, namely that of cotton polished diamonds, the kind of diamonds that you'll see in engagement rings and in jewelry. Once diamonds progress that far into the system, there's very, very little oversight.
These critics are urging the diamond industry to broaden the Kimberley process to include diamonds produced under near slave labor conditions and unsafe mining operations, and diamonds handled by brokers and others who refuse to abide by stricter rules of oversight and accountability. VOA did offer officials of the Kimberley process the opportunity to reply to the arguments made by their critics. There was no response to the offer, which was conveyed through Kimberley's internet presence. Jeffrey Young, VOA News.
Now, the rising exchange rate of the naira against the dollar is hurting prices of domestic items in Nigeria. We'll talk more about the economy later, but it's a major concern for traders and consumers who are having to spend more for everyday needs. Channel's business news correspondent Temple Ashaju reports.
Various studies continued to show how prices of domestic items are on the rise across the country. Economists following the trends believe that the closest cause of the high prices is the scarcity of foreign exchange.
What we're trying to let the public know is that domestic prices have still remained high, given what the macroeconomic headwinds we're seeing in the market. Dollar scarcity is still very much present, even though of recent we've seen an appreciation in the naira from the record high of 385 naira to the dollar to 320. But at the end of the day, the traders have already factored this into their pricing, which started from February, and that's why we're seeing prices still remaining high. They're not as volatile as they were in February, but they're still very high, and they've reached record high levels.
The escalating prices cut across groceries, food, building materials, and other major items. While the high rates and scarcity of foreign exchange impacts the manufacturing businesses, FMCG companies' performance have also slowed.
How we found ourselves here really started from the slump we saw in oil prices in 2014. We've had a period of about 21 months of witnessing oil prices. Oil prices currently at $39. And we know Nigeria is an oil-dependent economy, so we depend on oil for most of our foreign earnings. Aside from the fact that we're oil dependent, we're also import dependent. So majority of our commodities have some level of import content. And for that reason, this has affected our external trade balance, has also affected our external reserves. So we have less dollar coming into the economy.
If the slump in oil price is the grand cause of the high price of domestic items, then the question will be, how accurate are the numbers given by economists with what obtains in the real market? We came to Sura Market in Lagos to find out the prices of some of these items.
This is the time of tomatoes. We are buying like 3,250 a basket. Now we are buying 6,000. We don't know the reason why the tomatoes are cost like that. And they are bringing income from the north for us. Like palm oil, we are buying 7,650 for a gallon before. Now we are buying it 9,850.
Like this tissue, bounty tissue, is an imported product. So the rise in dollars is the cost for that. And other items like corned beef, sardine, they've all gone up.
How much is sardine now?
It's 200 per one. Corned beef, this Napa corned beef that we normally sell 500 is now 600 per one. Argentina, we sell 700 before, is now between 800 and 900.
With prices doubling across locally produced and imported items, the perspectives of buyers become significant as buying and selling go on.
Things we used to buy 100 naira before is going for about 400 naira. Even the yam tuber, in those days, I used to buy 10 pieces of yam tuber, I used to buy for 2,005. The last time I bought, about 2 weeks ago, I bought it for 7,800. Things are really so expensive, and when you talk, I'm surprised. I think it has to do with this dollar awareness. Even the illiterates, people that have not seen dollar in their life, when you ask a pepper woman that how much is your tomato, it will tell you the price of dollar has gone up.
While locally produced items may be lacking in foreign contents, their prices are bound to rise. After all, like the buyer, a trader must also buy other items with foreign inputs. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
Well, cutting costs on transportation That is supposed to be the reason for Uber. The US-based company allows consumers to book cab services online from drivers who use their own cars. As the company makes inroads in South Africa, Kenya and Nigeria, entrepreneurs in Ivory Coast are following suit. Emily Eob reports from Abidjan, where at least 4 Uber-like car services have launched since last year.
Abidjan's distinctive orange taxis have been zigzagging through traffic here for decades, but recently, new competition has rolled onto the streets. In front of his house, TV producer Jean-Louis Zoibo hops into the unmarked car he ordered. TaxiJet sent him the detail of the car and the driver by text message on his cell phone.
I often carry a lot of things with me because of my work. If I forget it in a regular taxi, it's unlikely I'll get it back, and I insist on punctuality. It is paramount to me.
At the headquarters of TaxiJet, all cars are tracked at all times. The service, which launched last June, now receives about 100 bookings a day. Most of TaxiJet's 500 drivers use their own traditional orange taxis, but the company has begun to expand its own fleet of unmarked vehicles to meet demand. Inspired by the American booking service Uber, TaxiJet co-founder Parfait Ouattara believes some Ivorians are ready to pay a bit more for better service.
The concept of TaxiJet is to provide comfortable and safe transportation for Ivorians. Our drivers are qualified, they drive peacefully, and are polite.
Over the past year and a half, 3 other transportation companies have made similar bets in Abidjan, proposing various rates and levels of luxury. Taking one of these services' unmarked car costs an average of 50% more than hailing a traditional orange taxi.
In our taxis, we have electronic tablets on which you can check emails and the city guide. There's also a 4G network available on board.
Congolese entrepreneur Bangzi Goma plans to expand throughout Africa, but he chose to start in Abidjan.
Abidjan is French-speaking Africa and West Africa's powerhouse with a growth rate around 10%. Africab targets all kinds of customers, but the people most likely to use this service are the middle class.
And it's working. Africab has already had to double its fleet, and the company now has a partnership with a big hotel. So what does this mean for the city's 2,000 orange taxis? Drissa Diaby of the local taxi union says they are trying to improve service. Some taxis now have GPS trackers, others are fixing the meters, though many drivers still prefer to negotiate rates. Diaby says the union has requested a meeting with the Ministry of Transport to discuss the new car services, but he is not too worried about competition.
We go to the working class neighborhoods. We drive 24/7 to help Ivorians. These new companies are not here to help average Ivorians. They are here to help the rich.
As for the cab drivers' notoriously reckless driving, Diaby says that's probably not going to change. He says it's just part of navigating the city's crowded streets. Emily Eob for VOA News in Abidjan.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Nigeria is facing economic crisis with a falling price of oil. Its problem now affecting manufacturers too. We'll tell you more after the break.